Carpe diem, my name is Ultranatic, and happy St. Patrick's Day from Toll Drama Vlog. So, yeah, I guess before I go over anything else at this point, I decided to spice things up a little bit with my wardrobe because it's St. Patrick's Day, and I just wanted to add a little extra green into my wardrobe, which isn't 100% necessary. My shirt does, in fact, have green in it. Like, you got the landscapes in the back, of course. Like on this side here, you got trees. And even with the contestants' individual shirts here, you got, there's a Dawn somewhere over on this side, her green. You got Duncan, who obviously has green hair. So this shirt would count well enough, but screw it, I just wanted to get a little more into the spirit of St. Patrick's Day in a way that didn't involve drinking because I personally just don't drink. But yeah, we are still back going over again Toll Drama Island 2024 in the 5th episode. Okay, before I say the title's name, it's a vlog. I've mostly been doing this without adding extra clips for jokes in. But for the sake of this title, there is a clip I'm gonna have to put in. So, the title of the 5th episode of Toll Drama Island 2024 is Ice to Beat You.
Never heard that one before.
Yeah, I just kind of had to put that clip in there because I was like... Again, that is so corny in a way that I really shouldn't like, but I kind of do anyways. It's weird. So, but otherwise, yeah, we have a new episode, which again has a lot of stuff I like, and yeah, it's probably a contender for my least favorite so far, just for a bunch of stupid stuff that does kind of get under my nerves. And again, it's weird for me because unlike other, like, least favorite episode, I'm not even saying this episode's bad. It's not, but it's gonna be contentious for a lot of people, and for reasons that I completely get. Maybe not for the same reasons, debatably, but there will be things where even I was like, what? But I guess we should start at the very beginning, where it opens with, again, I was sensing a theme here, with Priya and Caleb, who, if you know the season, they do become a couple later on. They get this showman's name called Prelib. So for shorthand, I'm just going to start calling them that, Prelib. Trained together in the morning, and it gave me some flashbacks to when Joe and Brick in Revenge of the Island were trained at the same time in the morning. The only difference is that with them, it was meant as a rivalry, whereas here, it is a lot more lovey-dovey, and I love the chemistry between them. And, ironically, as they're trained, they come across another lovey-dovey couple, Ripper and Axel, who are just making out on the dock, and apparently they've been doing so for an entire night. And I'm like, these two right here are so cringe. Again, just circles back around to being incredibly freaking endearing. Like, I know there's a lot of people who really do not like this couple, and I get it, especially on paper, and even kind of in execution, but why do I like them? I do legit like Ripper and Axel together quite a bit. It feels like I really shouldn't, but maybe it's because it's shown a nice, sweeter, endearing side to Ripper. And even Axel, who I didn't really have anything against in the first place, plays off of him kind of decently, so I don't know, like, I can get by with this okay. We then cut to Bowie telling Julia that he's not going to be cheating in today's challenge, to which Julia's like, yeah, you will, unless I want, yeah, you will. If I need you to cheat, we're cheating. I'm like, I guess what she says goes, unless, again, Bowie could get the numbers to get you out, but yeah, that's the main reason she's even doing that in the first place. We got Z find out that Priya likes Caleb, likes him, despite the fact that Caleb has not gotten quite to that stage. He still just wants an alliance with her, and that's it. Which, again, it's not like he's purposely breaking her heart. He just has no idea how good he is at bonding with Priya that he wouldn't realize, oh, she likes me. Well, maybe I like her too. We haven't gotten to that stage. But even I was like, I could see it getting to that stage at this point. But yeah, Z finds out, and Priya asks him to not say a thing. And throughout the episode, by the way, he has to keep putting a lychee flavored soda in his mouth, which I don't think sounds very tasty, but who knows, to prevent himself from spilling the beans in any way. Honestly, it's a funnier running joke than I figured it'd be. I figured that'd be kind of old, that would get kind of old after a little bit, but no, I was okay with this. We see Julia Planner cheat with MK and Ripper as MK draws a map on Ripper's abdomen, his belly button, basically, because they're gonna go through some kind of maze that they have to work their way out of. And y'all already know my thoughts on the cheating thing, which I'll get to a little more of that in a little bit. But my first question is, if you memorized that maze well enough to draw it on Ripper's belly shortly after hearing about it, at that point, why bother drawing it? It sounds like it's kind of in your head, MK. You could just use that, but whatever. We then see the show come in and taunt the skunk butts, with Julia bringing up, well, isn't it embarrassing that what happened to you last season? To which Michelle's like she just brushes it off. Julia tries to bring up that maybe I could be a movie star instead, to which Michelle says, Hollywood wants movie stars, you're more small town dinner theater, which apparently offends Julia so much that she's like, she's gonna pay for that. Why? I mean, I'm not gonna act like small town dinner theater is a compliment compared to movie star, but what? That personally is a slight to Julie? I don't get it, huh? You see, at least with Heather and Lashana and their back and forth insults, they felt genuinely insulting, so I can understand why the two hate each other so much. This comes straight out of left field. I do not understand where this came from personally, but okay. We then see Chris has imported the last iceberg from the North Pole within universe. I'm sure it's true in real life. I sure hope it's not true, but it's closer to the truth than I think any of us would care to agree on. Where apparently that's going to be the challenge for the day, going through an iceberg, hence the title, Ice to Beat Ya. Insert the Frozone clip again, and pardon again, there's somebody on the roof. It's always happening with me with these shoots here. And the teams have to navigate through it to get keys to open up a safe to get a Chris coin. The first person back to the island with that Chris coin wins immunity. And there's two separate paths. One of them is just a maze that you gotta get keys out of other ice blocks with, or an obstacle course, which is a lot more painful, but the keys themselves are going to be out in the open. You don't have to do anything to get to them. So, yeah, that's the risk versus reward ratio there. Also, throughout the whole challenge, there's Chris wearing a giant stupid hat over his head, like a giant safari kind of hat, if you will, because apparently his hair dryer has been misplaced. We'll get to that in a minute. And it cuts back throughout the episode to Chef apparently trying to race style Chris's hair into like a Farrah Fawcett style, into a perm, and then into a like 90s style buzz cut. It's a little funny, but it's more like cute funny. It wasn't making me laugh out loud personally. It's not an awful joke. It's just like an okay one. I'll work with it. But yeah, the rat faces decided to take the obstacle course, whereas the skunk bucks take the maze. And MK decides to strike the hockey bros in case they are still on the whole anti-cheating stance, which they would be, obviously. And yeah, she strikes them with ice skates. I will get to that in a minute too. Okay, you know what? I'll just get to how they're gonna get to the challenge, aside from just having the map, because they gotta still get their keys. So what they did was have MK take Chris's hairdryer from his trailer, which somehow he still doesn't know. Seriously? You have cameras. Do something about this. Hello? So that they can melt the keys out. So we have the hairdryer being stolen, and I'm guessing these ice skates being stolen as well. I think that's what they said in confessional there too. I am weirdly okay with this. But wait a minute, let's steal it. First off, they're fictional characters. I let that part slide. But second, this is actually kind of smart, and there's a precedent to where stuff like this has kind of been done in the past. Like, you know, in the first season of Total Drama Island, the original, there was an episode up the creek where Duncan helped make a fire with a lighter that he had on him. Now, I guess rules said you can't use that, and granted, that wasn't stolen, as far as we know. It's Duncan. For all we know, he did steal a lighter somewhere. And, yeah, if that was fair game, I don't see why this can't be either. If anything, it actually is a lot smarter than just using the maze to get through. But, yeah, but the part that I take more issue with is knowing the route, because that is literally just knowing the answers, rather than finding a more clever way to circumvent the entire test in the first place. That I can kind of be on board with, because that takes a lot more ingenuity. Just knowing the answers is kind of lazy, and that's what I don't really approve of. However, Bowie, despite not wanting to be on this cheating bandwagon, then inadvertently puts the idea in MK and Julia's heads. I mean, yeah, all we're doing is getting the keys with that hairdryer. It's not like you're going to melt your way through the entire maze. And then a light bulb goes off in their heads, and they're like, Bowie, you're a genius. And I was like, you know what, why don't you just do that? I mean, granted, there's probably a limited amount of power in that hairdryer, so, it can't possibly work that well? I don't know. But for the sake of just abstract cartoon physics and logic, whatever, yeah, why don't you just do that? Again, is that cheating? It both is and kind of isn't, in my opinion. It's less cheating and more hacking, because cheating is outright knowing the answers and figuring and just using them to your advantage. Whereas hacking is more bypassing the challenge in a way that the producers would not have been able to see coming at any point. That takes a lot more brains, in my opinion. I'm actually more okay with that. So yeah, they basically melt their way through much of the maze, and we'll come back to the skunk bunch in a little bit. Now let's get to the rat phases, where they get to a bunch of different obstacles, including something called Santa's Boot, which has a hilarious payoff of people getting constantly kicked in the face by a giant boot that looks like Santa Claus would wear it. And all of this is going on, by the way. Chris is watching the contestants go on. Again, how do you not notice that MK stole your stuff? I am so confused. Can you please explain to me why you're just not doing anything about this? That makes no sense to me. We see Nichelle grab the key for her team pretty effortlessly, which is awesome. Then we get to Z. I mentioned before that Z finds it hard to keep Priya's crush a secret. The rat faces then go into another obstacle that involves seals being fired at them from cannons, and they look exactly like the seal that DJ inadvertently injured back in the Yukon and Total Drama World Tour. I don't know if they're the same seal. They're probably more just same species, but I'm willing to bet they still use the same model in the animation process. Also, something else to bring up. I love this obstacle course for the sake of, if you went back to make another Total Drama interactive game, this would make an amazing idea for a challenge, like an actual computer game, which kids might not play the same way they used to, but I'd be so on board with it. I imagine a lot of other people would be too, so we'll see how that goes. We see Caleb save Priya from one of the seals being fired at her, which is, again, very heartwarming. We see MK and Raj find out about MK and Julia cheating because they see the whole drawn map on Ripper's belly button, and they're incredibly upset about this. Raj threatens to tell Chris about the whole thing, which, again, Chris should already know. I'm not saying it makes no sense for Raj to not understand it, but you're on a televised show. How wouldn't Chris know about this? You see, that's something I get almost more hung up on than the cheating. Because the cheating, it's bad, but I get why MK or Julia would do it. They're villains. Why doesn't Chris fucking do something about this? It drives me crazy. Like, do you actually care about the dang game? Actually, it's Chris McClain. The answer's probably no. To be determined, I guess. Meanwhile, the rat faces get to their next obstacle, which is a bunch of like pillars that they gotta land on to get to the other side and grab the key there. But because Z drank so much soda, he has to pee somewhere, and he pees on the very first pillar, so people can't get down. I would argue that's probably so far the worst performance so far in the competition because that directly hinders your team from getting further. But more on that later. We see Caleb instead throw Nichelle at the key, which is successful when she gets it. She falls down to the same into the pillars with the other with her teammates, but they manage to push one of them over to create a little bit of a snowbank to get over, and I think that's amazing. So, but yeah, well, back to the skunk butts who. Okay, as much as I really hate the whole cheating aspect, it does give some funny lines, like when Wayne says, I'm telling you, for the 43rd time, to stop melting that safe. That's funny. Although I should bring up, it's not their safe that they're melting in this case. This gets to a part that I really do dislike. MK and Julia decide to double down on the cheating by not just giving themselves an advantage, but by disadvantaging the rat faces by melting their safe and stealing their coin. Nope, sorry, don't approve. I'm like, look, helping yourselves in the game, that's fine. Hurting the other people in a way that would be completely out of their control, nope, sorry, no me gusta. No me gusta to that at all. Nothing about that is cool in my opinion, and even Bowie at this point feels really guilty about it and apologizes to Raj about it. So to help get the footing a little bit more even, we see Rajbo and Wayne make a snowball fight against MK, Yulia, and Ripper, and it causes the hairdryer to fall onto the ice somewhere and cause it to crack, and it causes them all to fall into a lower part of the iceberg, along with the Sasquatch and Aqua, by the way, who, by the way, is also there frozen, because Chris decided not to say anything about it, because that's still a running gag here. The rat faces get up there and they find that they're in the lead. And they take it with their own snowmobile, or no, sorry, not snowmobile, their sled. Meanwhile, after the skunk butts have come to, they realize that they landed on, as Rajbo calls it, an adorable snowman. I'm sure somebody else said it too. You're an adorable snowman. I just can't help it. I just find that so freaking cute to see Raj get stuff wrong like that. But they manage to evade it, and they get to their they have to get their snowmobile, which is supposed to take them back to their dinghy, I guess it was. Their boat to get back to the island. However, their brake breaks, and because of that, they can't stop. Instead, the snowmobile that they're in, their sled, whichever, just begins skipping across the water. I'm not sure if that's how that would work, but again, cartoon physics, I'll let it slide a little bit. And they actually do make it back to the dock first. And yeah, this is one of those things where they won, but at what cost? And yeah, this is another one of those things where how much would you all have won in, like, if you didn't have all these answers? Now, again, if it were just for the sake of, them melting their way through the maze, I would have called that fair game. Or at least not as unfair as knowing the answers, but that's not really how that went. So yeah, the rat faces have to go again to Tribal, but before they go, Nichelle finds a letter in her bed, which she reads, and as they go to Tribal, right before Chef can begin giving the list of like you did this wrong, you did that wrong, yada yada, Nichelle interrupts and says, basically, peace out. Because the letter is apparently a whole new contract for her from Hollywood. They want her back, and she's going to make a lot more money, and she can even win from the show, so she's just out. Which even the team's like, what? That makes no sense to me. But yeah, she quits. And I mentioned in a recent whole drama review that I'm a little less mad about the whole quitting thing, but it is one of those things where it's like, it is disappointing all the same, because Nichelle was doing so dang good all of a sudden. Like, in a way that is kind of far-fetched, but I don't mind. It gave some really cool action from her that I really enjoyed watching. So I am disappointed to see her go home the way she did. But that's not where the bigger problem is, because her team again finds it really suspicious, and then Julia comes out and says, "Oh, that letter's fake. I made it myself." And it was all purely personal. Like, it wasn't even meant to be for, like, the game. We gotta pause. Oh my god. Oh my god. There is so much about this that I have questions about. Too much, actually. So, first off, what do you mean it was all personal? Again, the whole personal reason, which came completely out of nowhere at the beginning of this episode. If anything, that feels almost in keeping with the original Total Drama, because a lot of those came out of nowhere too. But I was looking at that like, really, there's no strategy. This complete girl boss who is owning challenges. People seem to like her a lot more. She could even give you a run for your own money when it comes to winning challenges too, whenever the merge came up, which was a thing that was keeping Julia in the game in the first season, no less. Really? That was no never mind you. It was all because she said that, oh, you're a small town diner theater actress. That's it. That's all it took. Makes no sense. But beyond that, you forged a letter and a fake contract for Nichelle to go to Hollywood. How? I need answers. How did you do this? Where did you learn to do this? I think I'm missing a lot of key information. Like, where did this come from? Because either you are a master forger, a skill that I had not yet seen before from you on this show, I don't think, or Nichelle's an absolute idiot. I'm not sure which to believe in this case, but it feels so completely out of nowhere that I don't get what this is supposed to be about. So, if we're counting the worst elimination so far, I gotta go with Nichelle, and I'm not angry per se, but I'm just befuddled. What? This does not make a lick of sense to me whatsoever. And it makes only a little bit less sense than at the very end when we see MK return Chris's hairdryer and he's like, so she's the one who stole it. How are you only now getting that? Please tell me there's something I'm missing, because what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Again, I hope it's clear I'm not, like, mad or angry. I have a smile on my face, so a small part of me is enjoying how little this makes sense and how ridiculous it all is. But at the same time, I expect a little better. Like, the show's been overall really good and really funny and really dynamic and really good reality TV, too, but this is, like, the most slapdash freaking thing you could be adding in here at the last minute. It doesn't make any sense to me. But if it is a bad, it's an enjoyable kind of bad. And here's the thing, I'm not calling the episode bad, I'm calling parts of it bad. Almost about half of it bad, but it's not bad that got on my nerves. It didn't get under my skin. It's just one of those things where I would prefer it didn't go in that direction, but I can't, like, it didn't get a reaction out of me. If I haven't said before, I went to go see the Emoji Movie in theaters. If you're wondering why, it's because I sort of knew how bad it was going to be, but I didn't want to properly talk crap about it without seeing it, and I was not buying this thing in like a physical copy, so I was like, fine, movie theater it is, let's just see how it is. And however bad you thought that was, you saw every terrible thing from the trailer, if you ask me, which means when you got to the actual movie, it was a snooze fest. That's my biggest problem with the Emoji Movie. It's not that it's stupid and cliched and stolen and kind of gross and like, that's all bad. But I can excuse that kind of bad in a way that where it's memorable. But no, the rest of the movie put me to sleep. I was like, here's my reaction to the whole movie. Like, what fun was that? There's like 2 moments in the entire movie where I got any kind of reaction. That's it. I prefer that. Sorry. I prefer this Total Drama episode to that. Yeah, not the biggest statement in the world, but I prefer an episode of Total Drama to the Emoji Movie. But at the very least, this kind of like bad, or at the very least, below average kind of episode or plot or even just plot points, at the very least respect they got a reaction out of me. Like, that's not something I'm going to say doesn't deserve a little bit of credit where credit's due. I prefer having a reaction to no reaction at all. They are at the very least giving me something to chew on. So, I don't know, take that for what it's worth. So yeah, that was Ice to Beat You. It has its moments, obviously. Good moments, too. It does have several other moments where I'm like, why? And no. But it's not an episode I hate. Like, to say I hate it would probably not be accurate. It's just one where I don't get how we got to this point. And if I didn't say it before, by the way, I was trying to get to this. If there was a rat face member who should have gone home, it should have been Z. Because he's the only one who did anything really wrong in the challenge, I'm pretty sure, by peeing on one of the pillars and making it hard for him to get across. That's it. Also, the fact that he knew Priya and Caleb's secret, which, by the way, that would have probably been the moment where he would have somehow blurred it out of nowhere. I don't know, but like, that's one thing I might have done differently to improve upon the episode, since Z hasn't been doing all that much as of yet. But all the same, would I watch it again? Yes, I would still watch it again. But there's just parts of it where I would just have to work myself through it a little bit to figure out, like, where does this work? And I don't know. It's complicated, but it's a fun kind of complicated. So take that for what it's worth. So yeah, that was Ice to Beat You from Total Drama Island 2024. And I can't wait to look at the next episode. Take care.